Hi, this is Bobby with Grubb Mudd Concrete. Today we're working out in Plainfield, Indiana, where we're installing a patio and putting 3 steps off of this existing porch they have. The homeowner wanted to save a little bit of money, so they tore out an existing patio that they had, and they wanted to extend the new one about 3 feet, which would be 15 feet off the wall, and they wanted a bump out area for a fire pit, which would be 25 feet. And that's what I was doing, was putting a stake in there. So we opted to hand dig this patio. So we brought the dump trailer all the way up. It had been raining for like 3 straight days, so the ground was super soft and it wasn't hard at all, especially if you dig off the edge like that. But basically, it took us about 45 minutes to dig out that, and then about another 30 to dig out the circle for the fire pit area. And it was just one load. What Drew is doing right here is he's saving a little bit off to the side for the homeowner so they could put it back around the patio after we were done. But yeah, it's a lot of people dread hand digging, but when it's really soft like this, it's kind of the way to go so you don't tear up the yard bringing in equipment. There's a rough like a rough draft of what the patio is going to look like. I knew we'd have to dig out some more as we started forming up, but now it's time to go dump this and get some stone. But first we went ahead and set these steps up. So I measured down 5.5 inches because I knew I was going to use a 2x6, and then we chalked a line on it, and we used a square to make sure that the sides are square coming out, and we screwed them up and then tapped them down to level. There, that's level, you can see. And then you got to put the faceboard on, and as you can see on this faceboard, the bottom of it's cut at a 45-degree angle. That's important so you can run your float all the way up underneath of it, so when you're finishing, when you pull that board, you don't have nearly as much cream that you have to put in. What he's doing here is he's leveling over to the wall and making it just a little bit higher than the bottom of the step. And then what I do is I make it go up just a little bit there so no water sits in the corner, and then I exactly level off to the step right there, and then we'll chalk a line on it, and so we can see it a little bit better. And we will be putting expansion up against there and the wall. So if you want to support our channel, please hit that subscribe button, and then also hit the like button. It really helps. So we're at IMI. We're getting some reclaim. Some people call it road base. Basically what it is, it's leftover concrete that they put in their little water recycling thing, and then they take that loader and they chop it up and break it up, and then we use it as base in a lot of our stuff that we pour. It's basically like a 53 stone, and it's got some cement, and it reacts. So when you run a compactor over it, it really gets hard. It gets even harder than 53s. They're setting up the laser here. As you can see, the little red dots blinking right there. So we knew where our grade was over here, so the laser shoots a line out that's level, and you just put the bottom of the stick on your chalk line, and then come over here because on this one we wanted it to be level going across the back of the house, and then we make a mark there, and then we take a chalk line and pop a line on the wall. You always want to make sure your chalk lines are pulled really tight. We had to redo that one because it was too loose, because you don't want a bird bath in the middle of your patio. So when we use these screws, you can screw it a little high and tap it down. It's just the way we like doing it. If you try to do that with double-headed nails, they'll loosen up, and it gets annoying. There's everything so far what we got. Now we got to set the heights on that round part. So what we do is we have that string line running across, and you can either do it like what my dad's doing there, or even better, you can hold your level on your string line and mark it and make it level there, and then tap it down with just a little bit of fall, and then put your 2x4 across there, put a level on that, make that level, and then take your level and put it on the bottom of the board and level over to your form and tap it down, make it just a little bit lower, so that's your lowest point right there. What I'm putting on here are called our Proline form liners. The they really set your patio apart. It makes it to where your patio is going to look like 3D and not just 2D. I've seen some really beautiful patios, but the edges of them, they just look plain Jane, or they look bad. And with those, it gives it a finish on the edge as well as the top. So it, like I said, it gives it a 3D look, and it's just it comes out really, really awesome looking. So this is the homeowner's son. He's not bashful about the camera. I asked him if he wanted to be on YouTube, and he's like, heck yeah. So I gave him his 10 seconds of glory right there. So we got all the form liners laid out, but I had to take them back out. I was just laying them out to see how many I had. There I put one in the step, but you got to get gravel all the way up to the form, so I took them back out, and basically we're just putting we're tipping that up to make it a little easier to come out, and we're just doing a rough grade. And then what I'm doing is I got those stakes there. They got a nail in them that I've pulled a string from up there to the form, so I know where my grade's at out in the middle, and we get it pretty close to 4 inches. Then we compact it, then we put a little bit more in. So this is the end of the day, and it's ready for a compactor. So we brought the compactor the next morning, and Justin goes ahead and puts a compactor on the outside edge so he could put the form liners on the rest of the way. And there you can see how hard that stuff gets. It's pretty cool. There you can see my my step. I've cut the outsides of them off. I do that so you can get your float all the way up to their form liner. And as long as you have some strong stakes in there, it doesn't weaken it. You don't have to worry about it blowing out or anything. So now Drew's running the compactor the rest of the way and compacting everything off. We actually did like 4 or 5 passes on this. I always talk about in my other videos how important it is to compact. There I did the same thing to that step. I cut the corners off so you can get your float all the way up to your form liner. You can run a margin trial underneath of it, and it makes your finishing a lot easier. So this is the morning of the pour. We got to hang up a little bit of plastic. This is called bubblegum release. With your form liners, those are really expensive, and you want to be able to reuse them. So you go ahead and douse them with this bubblegum release. It's the same thing that you use on your stamps, but go ahead and spray the tops and the sides, and when the truck pulls up, do it again, because this stuff kind of evaporates kind of quick. I wanted to ask in the comment section if you guys use anything else, not diesel, but like I've heard of Duo Guard and a couple other things. Is there something you guys use that is better than bubblegum release that doesn't evaporate so fast? So this is Cash Concrete out of Greencastle, Indiana. I really, really love their mud. This is a 6-bag mix, and it's got air entrained with fiber in it. And I would say that's about a 5 or a 5.5 slump. But it's a 6-bag mix, so I knew it was going to be drying pretty fast. We were short-handed today. I had a guy that was saying he was going to be there, and he just didn't end up showing up, and it made everybody work like twice as hard or 3 times harder. So if you're a concrete guy, don't stand up somebody on a poor day. It really makes everybody work a lot harder. And I actually changed my mix from 4,000 to 6-bag because I thought I was going to have an extra guy, because if you look at the skies, it's kind of cloudy. There's how stiff that stuff is, but it's kind of cloudy, and if you pour 6-bag, if it sprinkles, it'll soak it right in, and 4,000 will too, but with a half an hour drive and 6-bag, this stuff really got with it. Towards the end of the video, you'll see is how we're pounding in joints and stuff. So there you see how stiff that is. I would say that's a 5 slump. You need to vibrate your forms with these form liners so you get all the honeycomb and air bubbles out. And how we do it is, there you see Justin, he's got a Sawzall, and you can control the speed of that. And you just run that right up against your form and your form liner, and with no blade on it, and it does really good. I've seen some guys use palm sanders, but we like the Sawzall because it's cordless. So you also have to put some concrete underneath the form, because when you vibrate it, it'll roll right out and it'll be low. So you fill it up kind of high, and then you put some underneath of it. And the next step is putting your expansion up. We didn't have time to spray it and glue it, so what we do is we just put it at the right height, have somebody hold it, and then we shovel some mud up against it. You always want to fill your steps up first too, and then maybe you can add some water to your mix, but you want those to be poured the driest mud you can. So we got to hang all our expansion there up against that wall. So what we do is we're filling, Justin's filling up the step, and I start hanging some expansion. I think my dad hops off the buggy and helps me out, but it's very important to get your expansion at the right height. You don't want it low, and you don't want it high either. But if anything, I guess be high. Don't be low, because I guess you could cut off your expansion with a knife. But we got ours right on where it needed to be. It's a little harder. It's definitely better to go ahead and get some spray glue if you got time, and go ahead and have it sprayed up. But you don't want to do that the day before, because that stuff is foam and it'll stretch out and when the sun hits it. So it's always best to put your expansion on the morning of the pour. But they do make a spray glue, and if you spray that on the back of the expansion and up against the wall, it's the best way to go. Whitecap makes a very, very good spray foam, a spray glue, and I highly recommend using theirs. You can see that stuff started stiffening up a lot, and this is probably 20 minutes after the truck pulled up. So I think we put some more water in it. Now Mike is floating the mud to the top of the expansion. Like I said, this is very important too, because you don't want you don't want it low and holding water anywhere. So take your time, float it right, because you might not get a chance to hit it again, especially when you're short-handed. You might not get a chance to hit it again until you get all the mud poured out and down. So we got it all struck off back to this point, and Mike's hitting it with the bull float, and we're holding the plastic up to keep the splatters down. We ran a little low on plastic, so what I did was we just held it up, and it did a good job. Now he's bull floating it off, trying to get up and around these steps. He did a really good job keeping it closed up and keeping it nice and wet for us, because the more you bull float it, you basically densify it over more and more, and it brings more water to the surface and more cream to the surface, and keeps it workable. If you don't keep on bull floating it, then you can get into some trouble. And I did have to skate this on knee boards. I was the only one, so while everybody was working on the outside, I had to get out on knee boards and do my best to go ahead and float it all. Somebody did reach out and float out for me, but it was pretty tough. It was 8.5 yards, and we used every last rock. This Georgia buggy, we rented from Dean's Rental out of Brownsburg. I guess you could have pumped it, but we don't really pump too much here in Indiana. They're too expensive, and they're not those easy pumps that you see on these other videos. They're to pump this kind of concrete, you need like a 4-inch line pump, and you can't just pump them back in the truck. They make a big mess, and but they are sweet. But they do work you too. I've seen some guys. Usually you have to supply a person to run the end of the pump, and as it surges, and it works the guys. I can remember a couple years ago, the guy I was working for, ordered a pump, and I had to put a guy on it, and it was working him to death. Anyway, here I am spraying some more bubblegum release on the form liner. Sometimes they're called step liners, and then we're going back up and striking off as Justin and my dad are filling up the rest. And like I said, we used every last rock in the concrete truck, so I guess we ordered it right on the money. But see how Mike floats his edges first before he strikes off? That's very, very important. Especially when you know you're running low on concrete, you want to get a good cut on it. You don't want to leave anything high. Plus, it eliminates bird baths. Here I am, bull floating up against the wall. Mike did that too on the other part, but it's very important. You want to keep it nice and loose up there against the wall, and try to get it as flat as possible. But normally you're pretty much always going to have to skate it, unless you got a funny float, which I did. I did funny float some of it, and it helped. So yeah, the steps need some attention there, and my dad's hitting the outside. I was getting ready to jump on some knee boards there and get those steps pulled, and now my dad's laying out the borders. They've got them all cut up to right there, but he's putting the tape measure on it and getting them laid out. Mike's brooming it all and touching up around the steps. We didn't have 1 minute to spare on this thing. That 6-bag sure went. You can see here how hard it is. Mike's pounding in these joints. Have you guys ever had to pound in joints like this before? I actually used a hatchet one time, but I used the back end of a hammer a little bit on this, and he said, no, let me show you. And he went ahead and pounded them in. So he did a good job. It sure was getting hard, and there was no doubt about it. If I had it to do over again, I would have went with 4,000, but hindsight is 20/20, and well, if I had it to do over again, I would have picked the guy up that didn't show up, and I would have picked him up the night before and made him spend the night at my house. It makes a huge difference when you got the crew that you're expecting to have. There you go. Everything's pulled, and look how pretty those faces look. And now they're just stamping the rest of the borders, and Mike's brooming it off. Didn't get a chance to knee board the bottom part. We had to reach out as far as we could, and Mike had to scrub it with the broom. It turned out with that broom, it turned out very, very nice. But sometimes you got to scrub it a little bit. One good thing about Cash Concrete is their cement is really white, and the concrete always turns really, really white no matter what. So I knew that, and we had that going for us. But my dad's trialing where we're going to be stamping, and we'll have to clean out the joints one time. But everything's broomed. Now we just got to stamp it. You spray your bubblegum release on your stamp, spray it on the concrete, and then line up your straight edge. Just put it right down on top of your joint, and either get the thing they got at the supply house that you tamp it with, or you can tamp it with the float. But now everything's stamped. We're finally done, and man, boy, was it a hard day. You can see the mess everywhere, but we got it all cleaned up. We actually stripped all the forms the same day. Then we came back the next day and saw cut it. Here I am sealing it. I'm using a water-based natural seal. It doesn't have a sheen to it at all. It's for protection only. But yeah, I said we stripped this the same day, and then saw cut it the next day, and then I permateaked the borders and sealed the borders with high gloss sealer. When I put the natural water-based sealer on it, I put stamps on the borders and made sure that no sealer got on the borders, because if you're going to permateak, you can't have sealer on it. Here you can see how nice these faces look. I mean, the 3D look is just amazing. Looks so much better than just a board. Here you go. It looks so much better than just a flat board look, though, and I'm so glad that I invested in these stamp liners. And if you take care of them, they last forever. Here's everything permateaked, high gloss sealer on the borders. Finished product. Thanks for watching. And again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Have a good night.